Hello, Cleveland. Welcome to the Dawgland podcast. I am your host, Anthony Joki. We are exactly 2 weeks away from the 2025 NFL Draft. That is going to be the main topic on today's podcast. And as always, got my co-host Jackson McCurry alongside me. Jack, how we doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. It's been a couple weeks since we sat down and did a pod, and I still can't believe we got 2 more weeks to go of this because I'm at the point now where I wish the draft was today because like all the talk is just it gets so like watered down. It's like every day there's a new rumor and then there's bantering back and forth, and it's just like let's get to draft day already.
Yeah, I know. I'm right there with you. Like we love the draft. We love talking about the draft. At this point, though, like you said, everything has been discussed to the nth degree at this point, and we're just ready to find out who the Browns are taking at pick number two, or if they decide to trade down. But that's discuss that at some point. But I guess the biggest thing recently that we'll dive into here first is that the University of Colorado had their pro day last week, and it seemed like after the pro day, it has started to ramp up that the Browns are really interested in taking Travis Hunter at number two overall. Um, whether that's going to be cornerback, wide receiver, we're not sure. We've heard Andrew Berry talk about him as a wide receiver, probably before other GMs have publicly. So we'll see what that means in that aspect. But if we go down the route of Travis Hunter at number two, and this is all, assuming that Tennessee is taking Cam Ward at number one, which we all believe that he has. He's canceled workouts with everybody else. Um, up until the draft here. So, uh, the Browns are essentially on the clock now and pick number two. And if they go the route of Travis Hunter, how are we feeling about that?
I feel pretty good about it. I mean, when you look at it, some people have Travis Hunter as the top player in this draft class. And I mean, it's easy to see why, just because of the versatility he brings, whether he's going to be a corner, whether he's going to be a wide receiver. I think that's what draws him the most to the Cleveland Browns and specifically Andrew Berry. Like you could see, like Andrew was all focused on watching Hunter during his workouts, when he was, running routes, catching passes from Shador Sanders. I mean, it's easy to see why Andrew Berry is excited about the possibility of adding Hunter to this roster. And I think the one thing, Anthony, about him is I think they're going to attempt to turn him into a wide receiver. But if that doesn't work, like we know what he can do as a corner from his time at Jackson State as well as Colorado. If he doesn't work out as a wide receiver, you move him over to corner, pair him up with Denzel Ward, and you have a solid 1-2 uh, tandem there at the position, which is something good. Keep in mind because Greg Newsome, Martin Emerson, both entering the final years of their contracts. There's no like really good long term answer to put opposite Denzel Ward. So if he doesn't work out at wide receiver, which I have a hard time feeling he won't, just because, reading into his scouting reports, watching what he was able to do at wide receiver at Colorado, I think he has the ability to be a full time guy at that position. But only time will tell. I'm sure Tommy Reese, Kevin Stefanski had things in mind for what they want to do with him at wide receiver. But if he is ultimately the pick here in 2 weeks, I feel like this will be a solid selection by the Browns.
I feel like, if we do pick him number two, I feel corner right away, play him there. And then you can easily bring him along into a wide receiver role. Maybe there's 5 to 10 plays a game, for the first half of the season, and maybe that grows as the season goes along to get him more familiar, get him acclimated to the NFL because of how much more physical the game is from college to the NFL. So, obviously, if he's playing a ton of cornerback snaps, there's going to be a lot of energy expended there, especially here in the AFC North, where you have Jamar Chase, Higgins, DK Metcalf now. So you have a lot of receivers, good receivers that you are going to be battling with. So the energy level is probably going to be the toughest thing about all this. There's no doubt the talent is there, but if he's going to play more than one position, the energy level I feel like is going to be the biggest hurdle that he's going to have to overcome, and the stamina factor of playing a much more physical game in the NFL if he's going to play both defense and offense. So I feel like if they slowly bring him along offensively whilst focusing defensively, that's probably the best case. Over the first couple seasons. And maybe we get to a point where he transitions from corner to full time wide receiver as he becomes a more established receiver in this league.
Yeah, I'm really curious though, Anthony, like if they do draft him, like what is the plan? Like we know Barry wants him or envisions him as a wide receiver. Kevin Stefanski said at the combine that, our offensive coaches want him at wide receiver, but the defensive coaches want him at corner. Like, what is the true game plan for him going to be? Is he going to start out at wide receiver? Is he going to start out at corner? And then, like, what's the plan going to be? Is there going to be a special package of plays for him on the other side? Granted, what position he's going to play full time? Like, what's the true game plan? Because we know Hunter wants to play two ways. I don't think it's possible for him to do what he did at Colorado just because of what you said, the amount of energy that gets put into being an NFL player and how much more physical the NFL game is compared to the college game. So I don't expect him to be able to play 100 snaps a game playing both sides of the ball. But I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility where if he plays 60 snaps at corner, that they have a 10 play package for him at wide receiver and vice versa if he's a full-time receiver and they sprinkle him in as a package player on nickel and dime defense where he can go out and be the third corner or use him as like a high point safety perhaps. I think just because of his versatility, the things that whether it's Tommy Reese and Kevin Stefanski on offense or Jim Schwartz on defense, the amount of things that they can do with a player like Hunter is endless.
Yeah, and at some point, in the fourth quarter, whether you're on offense or you're on defense, you're going to want to put the best 11 guys out there. And in those scenarios, I would imagine he's going to be out there, whether it's defensively, offensively. You're trying to win a football game, you're going to have your best players out there. And having the luxury of putting the same guy both on offense and on defense in those scenarios with his talent would be certainly ideal if they were to go that route at number two. Now, there still are, obviously a couple other routes that they can go. Abdul Carter, still a possibility at number two. Shador Sanders, also a possibility as well. So, um, both of those guys are still into play. I feel like for the number two pick for the Browns, if they stay there. Um, what are your thoughts on, how those two guys fit after it seems like Travis Hunter seems to be the favorite right now?
Yeah, I think it's down. Honestly, I think it's down to Carter or Hunter at this point for the pick. I think a lot of people know that I am a fan of Shador Sanders. I do think he would fit this offense here in Cleveland perfectly under Kevin Stefanski's coaching, but it just seems like we're heading in the direction where he's not as much of an option at two as people like to think. I know there's still national reporters out there saying he's in the mix at two. I don't know if that's a smokescreen trying to get someone to trade up for him. But it seems like he's going down the board at this point, and so I just don't think that's an option. But if they draft Abdul Carter, like I'll be a fan of that as well. The thought of pairing him up with Miles Garrett, I think is a great thing for the Browns defense. I do think they should focus more on offense, and that's why I've kind of swayed my thought process to going from wanting them to draft Abdul Carter to I think they should draft Travis Hunter just because I think the offense needs more right now. But like if they draft Carter, I think it's a great. I think he's got the tools to be an elite pass rusher. Some have said like his size compared to some of the other pass rushers that Andrew Berry has drafted during his time here, he obviously is a bit more undersized. I think the stress fracture is still worrisome. I think his medical recheck was supposed to be this week, so we haven't heard much on that yet. Um, but yeah, I think he brings all the tools to the table to be an elite pass rusher in the NFL. And if they do draft him, I think it'll be good. Like I think if we come away with Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter at the 2 pick, Anthony, I think it's a home run because we're back in a situation where we can add blue chip talent to this Browns roster. And those are two of the best guys in this draft class overall. So if they draft either one of them at 2, I think it's going to be a great first night for the Cleveland Browns in the draft.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and he was asking me, what I think, we should do at number two, and I told him like, there's 4 or 5 guys right now where if they selected them at number two, I would not be upset. The couple of them I'd probably try to trade down a couple for, but whether it's Carter, whether it's Hunter, whether it's Sanders, whether it's Mason Graham, whether it's Will Campbell, there's a handful of guys where I would not be upset if that was a Browns pick. Uh, come in a couple weeks here on Thursday. So look, you're right about this. They need blue chip talent. They are in a position to do that. Obviously, selecting the right player matters in this situation. But because there are so many different needs on this team at the moment, there's quite a handful of guys where I would be like, I would not hate it. It would make sense, and you just hope that the player that you pick is the best out of those group of players available.
Yeah, without question. I mean, I think Twitter got a buzz again on Thursday morning because Todd McShay released his new mock draft, and I was listening to his podcast at work, and he had Hunter go to 2, and then we traded up with Atlanta we moved up from 33 to 15, giving up 67 and next year's number 2 to move up for Shador, and I would be like, that's the home run draft for the Browns. But at the same time, and you think about it, Anthony, like we're giving up a lot of draft capital. We would have 2 and 15 in this scenario, and then we wouldn't pick again until 94. And yes, we address quarterback and wide receiver, but then we have a 79 pick gap in between selections. Like when we could address running back, we could address tight end, offensive tackle, maybe a defensive lineman with 33 and 67. Like there that's where you like try to weigh out the pros and the cons there. Like, yes, you come away with 2 of the most exciting players in this draft and Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter in that scenario, but then, you weigh out, well, you're giving up 3 picks when you could use those 3 picks potentially over the next couple drafts to add more pieces to the roster, add more depth to the roster. So it's a fun scenario. Like I would be excited as a Browns fan to come away with Sanders and Hunter on draft night of the first round. But at the same time, like I also know like there's guys in the second and third round that I would absolutely love to see on the Cleveland Browns. So it's like hard to weigh out the pros and cons with a scenario like that.
Yeah, it's tough because they need talent in so many places that we're not going to be able to fix it all in one draft or address all of it in one draft. You're not going to get 5 or 6 starters in one draft. That's a rare thing that ever happens. So where they're sitting at right now, if they're able to get 3, 4 starters, ideally with these top 100 picks that they have, that's the route you got to go. Um, you know, Whether they push the quarterback down the road to next year, or they still maybe they explore the Kirk Cousins thing after the draft. Um, that's a possibility. Maybe they go in with Miles Garrett and the edge players that they already have and see how this year plays out. Go after that next year. Corner, same thing. You have Denzel Ward. The other 2 guys are free agents after this year. Maybe we address that next year's draft. There's a whole different amount of routes that they can go in this. But the point is that like they have so many different needs, so many different holes to fill at the moment. You're not going to be able to get them all, in these first 100 picks where you kind of expect those guys to be starters. And if you draft somebody in the fifth, sixth, seventh round, and expect him to be a starter, you're not in really good shape at the moment. So um, I feel like there's a lot of different routes they can go here, and any sort of combination of those, I wouldn't be terribly upset with as long as they are the right players, they are the right fit. Um, they have began their top 30 visits, um, bringing guys in to meet at the facility. And quarterback wise, it seems like they're not leaving any stone unturned. They brought in Shador, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milrow, Cam Ward, Tyler Shuck so far. All five of those guys I could definitely see as possibilities. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because of Ohio State, they could meet with Will Howard at that local pro day. Do you know if he was there or if that's the plan?
As far as I know, like what's been reported, like they haven't met with Will Howard. Now I know they had representatives of the Browns down at Ohio State's pro day, but as far as I know, they have not had any like interactions with Will Howard.
All right. Running back wise, they have met with Quinshawn Junkins, and I know you told me before we started Bashal Tootin.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right. Uh, so definitely a couple possibilities there. They still have a big need at running back. Wide receiver, they've met with Travis Hunter, Ez Johnson, Isaiah Bond. Tight end, Harold Fannin Jr., Elijah Aurora, Mason Taylor, Terrence Ferguson. Offensive tackle Will Campbell, which could be, if they were to trade down from number two. Defensive line, Abdul Carter, Nick Scourton, Derek Harmon, Mason Graham, Deion Walker, Omar Norman Lott. Linebacker, Nick Martin, Jalen Walker. Defensive back, Jordan Hancock. And those are as we record this podcast, those are the players that they have met with so far in terms of the top 30 visits. Um, where would you sit on most of those guys? I mean, obviously, a lot of those guys extremely talented. Some are going to go in the first round, others second, third, and others early day three. Anybody there that really stands out to you, like oh they brought in this guy, that's intriguing.
I just think the tight end position. They've brought in four tight ends out of their 23 visits so far. We know Harold Fannin Jr. from Canton, Ohio, went to Bowling Green, had a fantastic career there. Mason Taylor is the nephew of Jason Taylor, I believe. I think it's how there's the relation. Elijah Arroyo, very similar to David Njoku, very raw as a tight end. Still had some injury concerns the first couple years, but then last year he had a great year with Cam Ward throwing him the ball. And then Terrace Ferguson, tore up the combine, really high relative athletic score. We know tight end is something that they need to address, especially going back to the zone blocking scheme offensively under Stefanski. So I think it's very apparent they're going to draft a tight end in the top 100, Anthony. The fact that they've brought in four guys already, not to mention who else they might have interacted with at the combine, the Senior Bowl, uh, going to the pro days and stuff. Like, I think tight end is something they will address early in this draft. I would be stunned if we're at the end of day two and they didn't take one, especially being linked to all these guys that are all projected top 100 picks. So those are the things that really stands out to me. And then Will Campbell, Mason Graham, and Jalen Walker, them bringing them all in. And you mentioned if we move back, like say we flip picks with New England or Vegas or whoever in the top 10, like those are guys to keep an eye on if we were to slide back from two, collect future assets, and then maybe target one of those three guys because they're all projected top 10 picks as things stand right now.
Yeah, definitely some opportunity to get those guys into the trade down scenario. If you're sitting at 33, I think there's a handful of players possible. Obviously, a couple of quarterbacks, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milrow. I think Judkins can certainly be in that realm as well. I guess let's just for the sake of this, they go Travis Hunter at number two. what route would you go after, taking Travis Hunter at number two at pick 33?
So I would assume that we're going to be in the market for a quarterback. And we know like so Dart's range is like 9 to New Orleans, like all the way down to the second round. So I think he would be a player there. Milrow, I've seen him I think as high as 21 to Pittsburgh. So he's anywhere in that range from 21 on down. I know the Rams have been connected to him. Shuck has been mocked to the Browns on several occasions, including this week by Mel Kiper. So I think the Browns definitely have an interest in him. They went to uh, Oregon to do a private workout with him because he started his collegiate career in Oregon, backing up uh, Justin Herbert. So I would think quarterback, but if for some reason they don't go quarterback at that point, then you would have to look at running back. Trevion Henderson outside of Omari and Hampton as like one of the two running backs I absolutely want in a Browns uniform. And maybe they hit tight end early because I heard McShay say Elijah Arroyo or Mason Taylor could be the pick for the Eagles at 32. So if they're in the cards for a tight end at 32, I could very well see us pulling the trigger on a tight end at 33.
Yeah, there's certainly a handful of different routes, and I could even see, we pick at 33, and then trading up from 64. I know it
67.
67. I know it seems like Andrew Berry hates picking late on day three, so I would imagine that at some point he may move some of those picks. It just seems that way that as it drags along, he doesn't like to be there. So I could see, maybe packaging a couple of these picks, trading up, whether from 33 back into the first round, the later half of the first round. Maybe it's up from 67 a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit up from, um, those third round picks as well. So, you know, we'll see how it all shakes out here in a couple of weeks. There's certainly more than enough to choose from. And as I was saying earlier, there are more than one need, that that the Browns have to follow through with, um, in terms of acquiring players here in the draft in a couple of weeks. So, um, we definitely need the talent, and whatever position it is, I think we'll be in a much better spot.
Yeah. Like outside of Shador, Anthony, like what quarterbacks do you like in this draft?
Um, I do like Will Howard a lot. Um, I feel like that there's something there, and to me, he seems like, and I'm gonna regret saying this because it's probably gonna come true. Like he seems like a guy Pittsburgh would take. Um, you know, um, personality, the stature, all of that. I feel like Kevin would be able to get quite a bit out of him because he is smart and he is mobile a little bit. So I think that there's certainly uh, something that could be had there. I don't think he'd be ready to start week one. He would definitely have to sit a year. So maybe if you draft him, you kind of explore the Kirk Cousins thing or another route after that. Um, I'm a big fan of that. Obviously Cam Ward, I really like Cam Ward, but there's really unfortunately no chance of us drafting him. It's funny you asked me this question because I am not the best in picking quarterbacks. So any of the guys
Me
that
neither.
any of the guys I mentioned probably won't be worth the damn in the NFL. But um, you know, between Ward, Will Howard, um, I think that uh, Bill Rowe certainly has an opportunity to do some things, but I feel like he'll need to sit as well. Um, I nobody's really talked about Dylan Gabriel much. He's just a really big competitor, and I think that some team is going to be lucky to have him. He'll go somewhere where he'll sit for a year or two and maybe have a chance to start after that. Um, so those are different guys that I would consider.
Yeah, I'm with you when it comes to the quarterbacks. Obviously, like I've gone over my track record here numerous times. Obviously, I was a big Brandon Whedon proponent in 2012. I think that should tell you all you guys need to know about me and my quarterback expertise. But like, I'm not the biggest Jackson Dart fan. Like, I've tried watching him and like trying to see what other people see, but like, and then of course McShay goes, he's got a little Josh Allen to his game, and I was like, oh, that's perfect because I hated Josh Allen coming out in 2018. Like, I just didn't see him turning into the NFL MVP that he's become. But like, if you had to make me pick between Dart and Milrow, like I'm gonna bet on the athleticism and the upside with Jalen Milrow. Obviously, the connection with Tommy Reese certainly helps, and the fact that the Browns have spent a lot of time with him between the Senior Bowl, the Combine, pro days, private workouts, like everything. And as far as like the later rounds go, like I'm with you on Will Howard. Just watched Gruden's QB class with him the other day, and I thought that was really good. I think it kind of showed a lot about Will Howard's character, his leadership, and some of the skills that he brings to the football field. And so, yeah, like that's where I'm at too. Like, obviously, I'm with you. I would have loved to seen Cam Ward be here, but obviously that's not going to happen. He's going to Tennessee, but I'm with you kind of in the similar mindset of like where the rest of these quarterbacks rank in my mind as we head towards the draft.
And I feel like, you know, they've kind of like shelved the Kirk Cousins things for now, just because they don't know what's going to play out. And I know it seems like
I think
Cousins,
he's waiting to see how things play
right?
out, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, if we draft a guy that's going to need a year or two, I could definitely see that trade being made. If we, draft Shador and he's going to start week one, obviously they don't make that trade. So,
Right.
I think after draft night, maybe that's a trade that goes down between day 2 and day 3. After we select somebody in the second or third round, or maybe before we select somebody, in rounds 4 through 7 on Saturday. Um, who knows? We'll see how it all shakes out. And I think, obviously, if they get Shador, you can kind of table that. But who knows? It could, maybe if they draft Shador, that's something that could still happen, and they plan to sit him for a year. It'd be hard to, especially in this town. The first incomplete pass, the first interception, they'll be ready for Shador. So, um, I don't want to go down that route, but I would, if you're gonna draft somebody like Shador in the first round, just play week one, have your backup quarterbacks, and that'll be that. But um, you know, we'll be here to a couple more weeks of these rumors to get through. It's definitely been a task over these last couple months. It is quite the silly season at the moment in terms of draft rumors and all that kind of stuff. So we'll be here to talk about it. We're working on something that should be quite fun for draft night, and on Thursday and maybe Friday. Uh, we'll have to hammer out all the details about that, but certainly something to look forward to. Um, we've never done any sort of live show before, but that's something that could be a possibility here in a couple of weeks. So until next time, be sure to give Jack a follow on X at JackMcCurry08. Give me a follow at Anthony Joki, Joki. You can see it right here, or hold on, right. It's hard to point on these things, because the camera is like backwards, so I have to like use my opposite hand with where the little thing is. Um, so be sure to follow me, follow Jack, follow the Dawgland at the Dawgland here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. We definitely appreciate it. We are over on X as well, the same handle. And just remember, always, until next time, go Browns.